what is the biggest thing that's keeping you stuck? Why do you feel discontent despite achieving what you thought you needed? Something's missing. You've tried other solutions, but nothing has truly fixed your problem, up until now. Download the 3 reasons you're feeling discontent and how to fix it fast at www.jedbrotherson.com and quickly create a clear roadmap that helps you find peace, clarity, and fulfillment. Welcome to the Pulverizing the Patterns podcast, where Jed Brotherson takes you on a journey to confront the roots of your discontent and emerge significant. Each week, we dive deep into themes like overcoming harmful family dynamics, standing up for yourself with courage, speaking out against injustice, and cultivating healthy, authentic relationships. Be sure you visit our website at www.pulverizingthepatterns.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get ready for empowering stories, expert insights, and actionable strategies that help you break free from negative patterns and create a life rooted in self-respect, clarity, and connection.
Welcome back to Pulverizing the Patterson. I'm going to leave that in there. The show where we dive deep into the roots of personal discontent, break cycles, and uncover wisdom forged through hardship. I'm your host, Jed Brotherson. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies the idea of alchemizing adversity. Simon Lee has spent over 3 decades coaching men and teenage boys, guiding them through trauma, depression, and disillusionment toward a grounded, courageous life. He's the author of The Courage Project, The Counterpoise to Fear, and founder of Unlimited Courage. His work is about rebuilding men, not through ego, but through integrity, emotional strength, and a code of honor. This conversation is going to be deep, and I have a feeling it's exactly the mirror that we need. Simon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jed. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Is there anything about you that I missed in that intro?
No, there's nothing that you missed. I mean, there's a bigger story in there, but there's nothing that you missed at all there.
We'll get to that story, unless you want to start with it right now.
Yeah, I can start with it right now. So let's go right back to the beginning, shall we? Because everyone asks that question.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to be a coach? And the truth is, I didn't choose it. It was just kind of offered to me. It was an unfolding of my life. And I came from a difficult childhood. I watched my sister be abused for 11 years by my stepfather. One of my most powerful memories is him passing her on the stairs and elbowing her in the head, and her head ricocheting off the wall. And I still remember the sound now, and I felt so helpless. I felt so shameful that I couldn't do anything. And that just strips you bare. Your childhood kind of ends, and you're just stuck in this pain and suffering of the moment. And it wasn't until many years later I realized that I grew up with so much guilt and shame, and I felt that I didn't do anything. But it wasn't just that. It was that I didn't get the worst of it. She got the worst of it, and I always felt guilty about that and totally ashamed. One that I couldn't help. I felt so helpless. I was just a kid, as everybody says, but for me, she was my sister, and I wanted to protect her, and I couldn't. But what really hurt was the fact that she got the worst of it. So yes, it was a very difficult time, and my real father left when I was about 9. I never saw him again. To this day, I've never seen him. And we were left in the hands of an abusive stepfather. So, yes, that was the beginning of my story, and how I grew up with this immense trauma and pain. And my quest was, how do I understand it? How do I relinquish it? And how can I live a normal life that everybody around me was seemingly doing, with all this anguish and pain that was within me? And that was the quest. And I couldn't think about dating. I couldn't think about getting married. I couldn't think about getting a career. It was an overwhelming mission that engulfed every single fiber of me, that I have to deal with this first. Otherwise, I knew whatever I place my hands on was just going to remind me. It was going to be a direct reflection of the trauma I had inside of me. And so I had no choice but to try and overcome it. Otherwise, I knew it would eventually destroy me. And it nearly did. It nearly did.
Yeah. What a powerful story. There's many parts of that I can I can empathize with. In your book and story, you talk about bodybuilding as kind of a false refuge. Would you dive
Yeah,
into that? Did you go into
yeah.
bodybuilding to try to use that as therapy for this?
It never goes down well, this story, when I speak to young men, because they all go that route, and I understand why. So I always say the first thing you find to soothe your pain is what you become addicted to. And mine was weight training and physical exercise. It was an absolute obsession because it was the only way I knew how to distract myself. So at 15, I found physical training, and I even used to leave the school when I shouldn't do, skive off, go to the gym, and they wouldn't know where I was.
Mm-hmm.
It was a YMCA center, so that I was allowed in there. And I used to skip school, not go in, go to the gym. And in the end, they gave up on me because I was always in there. But of course, I thought, well, if I can make myself as big, muscular, and powerful as possible, no one will ever hurt me again. And that was the big thing. I can put this barrier up, this image. And it did result in me winning the Southern England bodybuilding title at the tender age of 19. I was that disciplined. And I stood on stage with the winner's trophy. And I thought I was going to have this arrival point where I stood there and thought, once I get that trophy, we've all done this, whether it's with a career or something, once I get there, everything's going to fall into place. I'm going to be this confident man of courage. I'm going to be happy and joyous. And I felt absolutely destroyed because I stood on stage and I thought, I feel more frightened than ever. I feel worse because now I rely on how I look to soothe the pain. So I had an addiction that no one could see because no one looks at a cover model style physique and thinks, well, they've got problems. Unlike alcohol and drugs and anything else, you just can't see it. But I'm not saying that's always the case, but for me, it was. Yeah. And after the title, I went into the most massive depression, and I physically ran every day until I collapsed. And I just ended up in hospital in the doctors. And they told me I had leukemia. So they left me for 2 weeks with a diagnosis of leukemia. And then they came back and said they got it wrong, and that it was acute glandular fever, chronic fatigue, and I had some white blood cell issues. But that was everything coming to a head in that moment. That collapse was the trauma and everything coming to a head. So the only way I used to soothe the pain, physical training, was taken away from me. So I had to deal with it. And there's an old quote, I can't remember who said it now, what you run from looks for you anyway. And I really did try and run away. I really did try, but it just looked for me anyway. And it all came crashing down.
So they told you they first told you had leukemia. And
yes,
that diagnosis, that's traumatic by itself.
Yes.
But what did this illness and isolation teach you that strength couldn't?
Yes, it taught me that you cannot, well, as the quote says, you cannot run from it. You cannot mask up against something that's actually inside of you. I'm trying to keep things out, but actually I'm keeping things in. That's the whole idea of the physique, was to keep pain out, leave me alone. But actually all I was doing was casing the pain inside of me. But I was very fortunate. I met my first mentor while I was ill, a guy called Peter Hudson, dear friend. He's passed now, but he was the naturopathic doctor to big stars, Spike Milligan, the comedian, Roger Daltrey, and Linda McCartney. He was quite a prolific guy in his time. And he was the one that said to me, you need to do things completely different. You need to actually go into your pain, look at what's going on, what's this shame and guilt about. And it was an incredible experience. I mean, we worked up to 4 or 5 hours Qigong and meditation every day. And it was just incredible. It was just incredible. And that's when I realized during the meditation that what I was really shameful about was not having the same treatment as my sister. I didn't know up until that moment, but it just came out. It came out without anybody questioning me. It just came up. But he was a phenomenal man. I owe him a lot.
So doing the Qigong meditation helped you calm your mind to the point where this awareness was able to drop in?
Yes. Yeah. So what is beautiful about Qigong is that when the awareness starts, when you really get into it, you can pick up every single point in your body that's actually locked up. I didn't realize the base of my throat here was constantly closed. I didn't realize I was constantly swallowing. I wasn't aware of it. I didn't realize that actually in my lower back was absolutely seized tight with tension. I didn't realize how much tension I held in my face just as a protective mechanism. I didn't realize how much I clenched my jaw. It wasn't until I did the soft start exercise that I was really able to have an awareness of all these points in my body that were just locked tight, like a protective mechanism. It's almost like I'd been in a car crash.
Yeah.
And all my muscles, I had whiplash and my muscles were seized up to protect the rest of me. It was the same sort of thing. I'd been walking around for years with these locked parts in my body, which you'd never thought if you saw my physique. You'd have thought, well, this guy's the epitome of health and fitness.
Yeah.
But it was just an external look. It wasn't the reality of what was encased inside. So yes, it was a powerful moment. Powerful experience. I'd never quit doing it, actually, because it's just such a beautiful practice.
That's amazing. What's interesting about this mirror right now that's happening is Qigong is one of those things that I've been lazy about starting.
Ah, fantastic.
But it keeps circling around saying you need to be doing Qigong.
Go for it. Once you start, you'll never stop. It's just a phenomenal practice. Phenomenal practice.
You've said that men don't want to talk endlessly about their feelings. What do you believe does work when it comes to real transformation?
Yes, I think, I'm not sure in the USA, but I know in the UK and in Europe in general that they believe the panacea of the male angst is to talk about their feelings. And I don't think that's true. I think what happened was we used to be in a time where men never shared their feelings. It was stiff upper lip. I mean, you look at the First and Second World Wars, men went through some horrendous times, and I understand that to a degree. But I think what happens is we kind of overcorrected, and they said embrace your feminine side. But I think what men did is they actually neglected their masculine side, not just embrace the feminine side, they neglected it. So the clients I've seen are very passive, almost suffer from apathy and disconnection, and they've almost like neglected parts of their masculine side. So what I find is if you empower them first and talk about the positivity of masculinity, like action, risk-taking and protection and giving people a safe space and being open-hearted, they're far more likely to open up and be vulnerable about their feelings. This is why in the UK we've got a fascinating place in London where they teach woodwork. So men will be working with their hands and then they'll open up about their feelings. But they certainly won't do it if they're all sitting around in a circle. But once they're moving, which is a very masculine thing, action, energy, they tend to talk more about their feelings. They want to be empowered first. And I find it works not just with the older men, but also with the teenage boys I see as well. Because at the moment, as I say, I can't speak for the USA, but in the UK, we've got a culture here where teenage boys are just constantly told they're wrong. They're told wrong. They're being wrong for being masculine. They're wrong for being boys. Their emotions are wrong. How they feel is wrong. And there's nowhere to go with that. It's just constant guilt and shame. And guilt and shame can end up being weapons to suppress men and boys. So I try to empower these men first, and then they will open up. And, you know, there's this idea that a man's got to be like an alpha male, or he's got to be this, he's got to be that. But I coach CEOs in London that have got 100 men under them, and they're really emotional, but it doesn't stop them taking action. So what's the problem? It doesn't stop them taking action. So what's wrong and what's right? And I like that. I like the fact that men can be allowed to be what's natural for them, their natural personality. Then some men are going to have more feelings than others. That's okay. But if they can still take massive action, then great. Who am I to say they're wrong and they should be more of this and more of that? If it's causing them suffering and pain, and some of them come to me just to hear that comment, and they go away very happy. Yeah. Shouldn't I be more manly? I said, well, the fact you've achieved what you've achieved, and you've got 2 lovely daughters, and they love you dearly, and that one session is enough for them to think, I was actually thinking I should be somebody else, but I'm actually fine as I am. Mm-hmm. And that's great.
It is. Your entire framework seems to be built around the powerful idea that courage must be the primary aim of life. What does that mean to you, and why is it the essential first step?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think this is the one thing that came out of the one big thing that came out of my studies over all these years. We often, the great religions, and everybody tells us that love is the most powerful force, and we kind of understand that, but we can't help but kind of drift back into sentimental love. So I thought to myself, what does that mean for a man? Love is the most powerful force. And I start reading and researching philosophy, I came across agape love, which is the old Greek term for unconditional love. But the more I studied it, the more I realized that agape love is actually a duty for men to rise men up to the highest level they possibly can through encouragement, through love, through support, and through integrity. That really changed things for me. And I realized that actually the actual action of love is courage, because it's service orientated. Mm-hmm. So we've got our natural loving moral instincts, which I believe that is the human nature, our loving moral instincts. And from that, the expression of that is courage and integrity, selfless service, protection, fight against injustice, reach the highest level you can, own what you say and what you do for integrity. Be aware of what you're doing even when no one's looking. Always try to make the right decision, the right action. So there's a line running through all three of them, but courage seems to be the one, because it comes from the Latin word of cor, which means heartfelt, speaking one's heart through action. So the reason I want people to look at courage in a different light is because it kind of connects love and integrity together. Mm-hmm. For agape love. And I think that if you aim at courage, what it really means is taking risk for what you say, taking risk for other people, a level of service. Through agape love, it becomes a really powerful virtue. It becomes the virtue of which all the others are stacked upon. As Maya Angelou said, you cannot practice, let me get this right, you cannot practice any other virtue consistently without courage. It kind of binds them all together. Mm-hmm. So I've bounced between the three of integrity, courage, and agape love, and I see the connection through them now. Because when I was young, I'd stand up in front of guys and say, well, it's all about love, guys, and they'd go, oh God. And I understand that, because they instantly think, well, sentimental, I just want to be a man, don't talk about love. But when I learned and understood agape love and explained it, they're like, I get it now. So it's our responsibility to raise our sons, our children, and other men on the planet to the highest level they can be by our example and our support and our encouragement. And they got it. That's when they got it. That was my way in, but I got it wrong at first. I have to be honest.
We all do, right? We have to find that connection. And you're making me just reflect back when I first started on this journey, how I was able to, or how my coach was able to help me get to understand this. And so many lessons come through my kids, right? And so as I was sitting in the emotions that make me feel the fear of, there were so many different things I've had to do this with, and then to be able to sit in the space and hold that, and then bring that unconditional love in from my kids. Love is the only emotion that I've found to be transformative, to be able to encompass, surround, and dissolve all those fears. It feels like that's in line with what you're saying.
Absolutely. It's really powerful, and I think at first, when men first come into this, there is a, it's like the barrier thing again, isn't it, Jed? Where they put the barriers up, thinking, "Don't talk to me about love." I've seen it in seminars, even if martial artists have tried to say it and talk about love, the guys are like, "Whoa!" And you can see them physically recoil. It's like, I don't want to talk about love, because they don't understand it. But they can feel it, really. They just don't want to admit the feeling. It's almost like this male vulnerability where we don't want to talk about love. But actually, it is the most powerful force on the planet. And I'm convinced. Someone said to me the other day, how do you know that our innate nature is loving moral instincts? And I would say, because without it, we wither and die. Mentally, physically. Look at the data now: multiple sclerosis and childhood trauma, autoimmune disorders, chronic fatigue. It's just shocking when you look at it about the effect it has on the body. But once that love comes in, you can literally heal anything, and it's such a powerful force. But when we see someone in trouble on the street, if we saw someone in trouble, they fall over, we stop, we go over, are you okay? I'm convinced our innate state is loving moral instincts. But I think to answer that question that they always ask me is that without that, we do become sick. We do become almost mentally ill. We become physically ill, and we wither away. You can see it in people. You can feel it in their bodies. I've been doing this so long, I can just meet someone for the first time and I can feel it from them. I never forget meeting a young girl at a talk I did, and she came up to speak to me afterwards. I've never felt so much. She was abused as a child. I've never felt so much pain from someone. It was just astonishing. As soon as she walked in the room to talk to me, I could feel her pain. It was just immense. It was just immense. And she just didn't know what to do with it. And she'd been on a course for forgiveness. And she said, it's not working. I just hate what he did to me. And I said, have you ever allowed yourself to be angry? And she said, well, no, I always thought that was wrong. And you know what? She allowed the anger and came back to love. And she was okay. But what was blocking her recovery was anger. So sometimes you have to go through other emotions before you really let that love shine.
Right.
And she did get very angry. She had a good reason to be as well, but she'd never allowed it. She was blocking an expression of the fury and the pain inside her, the shadow that wanted a voice. She was blocking it. And it stopped her forgiving, it stopped her loving. It stopped her from having a life. So sometimes you have to allow other emotions to let that love, that love in.
Yeah, keep it open.
Yeah. Allow the shadows to come out.
Right. I've seen men also chase purpose as performance. This is, I mean, just as you're talking about the youth being told you're wrong because you're a man, I think this chasing purpose as performance is kind of in that same lump of lies that we're fed. You emphasize becoming the kind man before trying to build the mission. Can you talk about that inner foundation?
Yeah, that's the big. That's the big.
The same.
Yeah, and it's big though, because most of the time you go to a coach, they say, well, what do you want to do? And they say, well, I want to get this car, I want this house. You get a vision board and everything, but I never do that, my guys. I always say, well, what do you stand for? Who are you? And they look at me and say, well, I don't know what I stand for. I just want this. And I think the clue to it was there was a great Russian philosopher called Gurdjieff, and he said that every man has about 100 different personalities in him baying for attention. And I like that because I felt that when I was young, for certain. So at any moment in time, one of these personalities is choosing the mission they want and what they want to do. And he said at some point, you're going to have to nominate a captain of the ship who's going to take you forward, which is where the previous conversation we just had comes into it. So I always teach guys to be clear on their values first, what they're going to stand for. Are they going to lie their way to the top? Are they going to be men of integrity? Are they going to have courage? How are they going to lead? Have they mastered their own senses? Have they got a certain degree over the mastery of their own senses so they're in a position to actually guide somebody else? And we had some really deep conversations. And what I normally find is, because some of the guys I see, they even know what they want to do, but it changes. Or some guys don't know, but when they go through the process, they start to actually pinpoint what they want to do. It comes out of going through their values and what they want to stand for, which is really fascinating. Other guys have gone through the process after saying to me, all I want is the director's chair. That's all I want. And then they go through the process and they start their own business and they leave the company and they don't want the director's chair anymore, so they can spend more time with their children. So it really is powerful to decide on those values first and what you're going to stand for as a man.
That is powerful.
To go forward into a mission. And people think, well, they're two separate things, but they're not, because the character you go into your life with and how you run your business and how you run your entire spectrum of your life and how you raise your children will be based on your values and what you stand for, your integrity, your courage, your code of honor. And you take that with you wherever you go. I would argue, in fact, that's the only thing you're going to be left with at the end of your life, because you're certainly not going to chase missions for the rest of your days. But what you stand for, that love, that integrity, that courage, that'll be what you're left with. So it's no small thing.
Right. I agree with that. As you're uncovering this with these guys, what's the core pattern that men get stuck in? Like, that you've worked with everybody from entrepreneurs to disillusioned teens. What do you see as the common thread among all of these?
The future grasping mindset. So once I get here, because all these guys, without exception, and it's true of all of us, they have character defects they don't like. They all can pinpoint something they don't like about themselves. And they all think, if I get that car, that woman, the mission, the money, those character defects will miraculously disappear. And they don't. Often, I know money solves money problems, but they don't always solve the problems with a man. And they often get there and think, I've still got those weaknesses, those fears I thought would just miraculously disappear with achievement. But if we're mindful of those and we use our mission to overcome them, and we can stretch ourselves in certain areas, and we're aware of those defaults, and that's where the honesty takes place, and the vulnerability of courage, where a man can sit down and go, yeah, I do lie to get out of difficult situations. I do flirt behind my wife's back. I do have affairs behind my partner's back, or whatever. You bring them to light, then they're in front of you. But what guys do is they use their mission to distract them from those things and not look at them. And that could be true in sport or business. But I think we should use our mission to overcome those character defects, to draw them to light. Because we do it with things like, oh, I'm frightened of speaking on stage. Okay, well, let's do more of that. But the deeper character defects, like constantly lying or jealousy, we don't tend to look at. We just leave them alone. We say, oh, they're only small, but they're not small, because you take them with you everywhere you go. It's like the porn addiction that's huge at the moment. In the UK, we've got 9-year-olds addicted to porn, which is just shocking. And guys say to me, well, it doesn't matter, because that's something I do in my private life. It doesn't matter. I said, it does matter, because the personality that leads you to indulge in that all the time, with the curtains closed, as soon as your wife goes out, you take that personality with you everywhere you go. You don't close the curtains on that personality. He goes with you to work. And he'd be looking for a voice somewhere in your pattern of your daily life to have another voice outside of just looking at porn. And I think that's what guys don't get wrong. Get wrong is they think they can just lock it away in a closet and no one knows, but it eventually comes out. It comes out in speech or behavior or something else.
Yeah, it does. Like for me, I found Jordan Peterson's just a flat stop telling lies to be pretty powerful. And one day I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to try this as an experiment to see if I can be in awareness and catch myself telling lies to I was like, well, he's talking about it with such passion. It's a bigger deal than my conscious mind is aware of. So I set that as a goal, and I started observing, and I caught myself in several little lies, and they're all to at least the early stage was all to myself. Later, I started realizing how much it was ingrained in me.
How powerful.
But how powerful and freeing it is when we can actually see what we're doing.
Yeah, just taking that time just to be curious, not judgmental, but just be curious about it and just have an observation. Yeah, it's powerful stuff, Jade.
Tell us what it means to be kind but fierce, and how does that principle change as we show up in relationships? Just as you were talking about how everything that we do gets drug into everything in our life, how does this show up in relationships, especially as fathers, partners, and leaders?
Yeah, the fierce side of it is, and I'm glad you brought that up, because so many guys struggle with this. They look at that comment and they go, that doesn't go together. I said, there are two sides of the same coin, and we're told from school, aren't we? Just be kind. It's even on the doors in schools. Just be kind. That's not bad advice at all. But there is a time, especially for men, they need to be fierce. And the fierceness side comes in when you need to protect your time, where you need to be protective of what you're trying to achieve, and also raising your children. It's the man It's naturally the man of the house that says, no, I don't care. That's it. I've had enough. And there's three stages that the kids go with their father. First, they idolize him. Then they hate him. And then they come back and say, wow, Dad's a wizard. He's so wise. And it's that middle stage where, you set the boundary and you say what's what. And it's natural to do that. And I believe it should come from the father. And that's the fierce aspect of masculinity, where he keeps everything in track and boundaries are set. Not just for the children, but for himself, so they can see that. So the fierceness side of it is the protection phase, where you protect your time, what you're trying to achieve. You're protecting your children through discipline, because you know that at the other end of the scale, they're going to grow up to be better people for it. And, we had it in my house. I've got two boys. Other night, my other half said, oh, well, you ran your cross-country race on Tuesday, which you did very well. And yesterday came around and said, well, I'm a bit tired, so I don't think I'll do it. And I just said, you're doing it. You need to set an example. You're not that tired. You can do it. It's Friday today. There was only 2 boys showed up, and they ran a good race yesterday. The rest of them, their parents let them have the day off because they said they were tired. But what that does, that fierceness from the man, it says, step up, be more, you can be more. And they encourage you to be more. And that's a very masculine trait, that pushing and action. But if they don't do that, then they're taught we can step down whenever we want. We don't have to do it. And they will learn to do that as adult men. It's a bit uncomfortable, a little bit tired, I'll leave it. But if it's installed in them when they're young, then they can really soar. And it's just that kindness is great. You've got that nurturing aspect of a man where he's there for them, he's protective, he gives them space. But there's the fierceness where it's boundary setting for the children, for himself, his work, his mission, his values, and what he wants to achieve. He's protecting the world how he wants it to be. On a bigger spectrum, he's protecting the whole world how he wants to be through his own kindness and fierceness.
I love that. You're causing a lot of emotional stirring right now for me, because everything you said is it's easy for me to follow in my life, like all those stages that you just said about the father, like idolize him, hate him, go back to thinking Dad's a wizard. How do you teach men to, like, I find myself as I'm trying to teach my kids, like how do you set the boundaries that you're talking about to help instill all of these qualities, yet maintain the openness for their agency inside getting them to show up, right? Like, so the specific example I'm thinking of is softball practice yesterday with my 8-year-old. It's hot and doesn't want to play, doesn't want to go do it, but to get to the fun parts of the game later when she gets bigger, this is the learning phase that we have to go through. How do you help people just discover that part in just their daily life? It's like, yeah, this part sucks. I forget which coach it is, which book it is. It's Embrace the Suck. It might be Jocko Willink.
I've heard of that. Yes. I've not read it, but I have heard of it. Yes, absolutely.
And just go for it, get through it. How do you help guys maintain the still hand, the wisdom in it?
I get them to put massive value to it. I don't just say, come on, it's good to be resilient, because what does that even mean? So I get them to give them massive value on that. If they've got children, I say, your children are watching you. They're watching Dad. They're watching how resilient he is, how he shows up. If they haven't, I say about how it's going to affect their whole life. These are the people that can have the best relationships, the best friendships. These are the people that the big companies want to work with because they show up and they're resilient. So I give massive value to it, and that really makes them. And do you mind if I tell you a story about a child I saw once? It's a really powerful story because it really reflects this.
Yeah,
I'm pausing here because it's one of the most powerful coaching times I had. I saw a child once with the most horrific abuse. I mean, everything you can imagine. Both parents in prison. It was just awful. And I even read the case sheet. It just crushed me. And I was with this child and I thought, where do I go with this? What do I even do? um, it was an insight into the darkness of humanity, the black hole, the abyss. And so I thought, I can't just say poor you. So I said to this child, I can't take away your pain, and I've got no responsibility to do that, and no one else can do that. I said, but what there's going to be out of this is going to be a light. It's going to give you a light. There's going to be a treasure that you can take from this. I said, you're going to have more potential than any other child you'll ever meet because of what you've been through. And she looked at me with these big eyes and said, so you're saying I've got a kind of superpower, with a big smile. And that was enough. It was just enough to give value to the most horrific situation you could possibly imagine. And that's what I always kept doing. What value how can we attach the biggest value to this, even in the most darkest of circumstances? Because I've seen it all in my career. I've seen the worst, addictions, child abuse. I've seen it all. So I have to somehow lead them to somewhere that they can't look at the moment. They can't even comprehend it.
That's so powerful. I love it when we can recognize that these lessons teach superpowers,
Yeah.
And the way that you were able to help her see that, I love the smile that comes through at the end for them.
Oh,
Just how you said that, like I saw it in your face, just to know that, thank God I'm the one here helping and said the right thing.
yeah. And you always think that, have I said enough? Have I done enough? Have I said enough? Especially when I'm in front of guys that say to me, I want to end my life this week. And they're looking for one word. They're looking for one signal not to do it, one clue not to do it. And in that moment, the whole world disappears. It's just me and him sat opposite. And it's just timeless. And they're just looking for one thing to hang on to not do it. And those moments are just, there's a beauty in those moments. I mean, it seems a strange thing to say, but it's just such an honor to save a life.
Yeah. For a guy that feels disconnected from modern society, like he doesn't fit in anymore, or just what you're talking about in these depths of emotion, where does he start? What's the first courageous action that he can take?
Well, the first thing I say to them, which is really quite an eye-opener for them, and I had one that just literally last week, is just say, you're not supposed to fit neatly into society. And that's the first thing they've got to get their head around. But I thought, well, that was the thing. That's what I don't want to knock anybody, but there's obviously some therapists that do try and do that because they're connected to schools or institutions and they have to abide by certain curriculum. I don't. So for me, I say to them, I don't want you to fit neatly into society. Stop trying to fit neatly into society. Let's define it. Let's define it your way. Let's find a way for it to work for you. And we go through the basics. So I say to them, see if they've got any interest. Have they got any support? I mean, talking about the lowest, darkest moments here when they're, on the ragged edge. And I look at, if I can, I'll start them on physical movement, if I can, because I know they're going to contain huge amounts of trauma and pain. And any kind of physical movement is going to help them cope with that and understand it more. It'll release it. It's not ideal for long term, but it'll release it for a while. And then we talk about their values and what they stand for and what they would like. And it's these are conversations that unfold over a few weeks. But the first one, I just need to tell them, stop trying to fit neatly into society. That's the big one, to be honest. That's the big one. That's the one that breaks it, because they say, I just can't fit in. I said, well, stop trying. Let's find another way. And then we work together to find another way. Because the entrepreneurs I see don't fit in either, which is why they're entrepreneurs. And that's what I say to them. The sports stars don't fit in either. That's why they become sports stars.
Yeah. So how do you help them redefine that masculinity in a way that serves both them and the world?
Yes, you're right. That's a good question, because as soon as you said that question, I thought they've all got thoughts about being a man and masculinity that are normally quite messed up. And that's either come from their conditioning or from school or from somewhere else. So I actually teach. We've got something called the Seven Courages, and it's basically based on the Japanese warrior code of Bushido. And I teach this to the guy. I used to teach the Bushido because I got really well versed in the code of Bushido. So I used to teach that because that's what Peter Hudson taught me. And when he taught me this, I thought I'd found the Holy Grail. I got the poster. He taught me about the code, and I thought, why don't they teach this in schools? This is incredible. This is like a code of living, a guiding principle of behavior. So I teach all my young guys, and they absolutely love it. They love it. I had one guy recently. How old was he? He was 16, 17, and he came to me for a session, and we went for the Bushido. His dad had left. He was in a bad way, and he had to take Monday off school because he said to his mum, that was such a paradigm shift. I can't get my head around it. I've just got to sort it out in my head. What Simon told me, Unlimited Courage, the other day. I just can't get my head around how powerful it was. So he had to actually take a day off school to get his head around what I was telling him because it was so different. But the guys love, it's such a masculine code, responsibility, duty, protect what really matters to you, all these sorts of things. And they love it. And the self-discipline. We learn about the self-discipline, what it really means, how it's going to change your life. And the young guys, they just love it. They absolutely love it. And they've never been taught this. Nothing like it at all. All they've been taught is guilt, shame, anger. And they've never had a rite of passage. They've got no character that they can really be proud about and work on and have a code of honor that's really meaningful to them. And they come to Unlimited Courage and it fits into place for them. Without exception, every young guy that comes along and we teach this code to, their eyes light up. Without exception.
That's so powerful. Let's see, we're getting towards the end here with the wrap up. What's one thing that you want every listener to walk away with today? And could you also explain this, the free gift that you sent me the link for?
Of course.
What that is and how people can use that.
Sure. So what I'd like people to take away is definitely that whatever dark times you're going through, there's a light in there. There's never a storm without hidden treasure. And it may not reveal itself straight away, but it will over time. But just knowing that it's there, there's never ever just only darkness. There's always a light. Might be a small one sometimes, but it will get bigger as you come out the other side. So every storm has hidden treasure. And at some point you will find it. Be curious. And the free gift, I've got it up today just for this podcast actually. So it's even got the Pulverizing the Patterns title on there. So it's nearly an hour's audio all about courage and self-leadership. And it's at www.unlimitedcourage/leadership. Okay, so it's www.unlimitedcourage/leadership, and there's a free audio on there to download. You don't have to pay anything. It's completely free. Put your email in and you can download it. And it's even got Pulverizing the Pattern on there. So
that's amazing. It's
okay.
As I pulled it up and looked through it, I know that people are gonna they'll enter their email, they get access to.
There's some graphics on the same page. There's the pyramid that's got the innate human nature on the bottom, which is compassion, courage, integrity. And we talk about fear and pain in the middle, which can push you to conformity and obedience. We've got food, thought, and movement. We go through that, another graphic, all about how to focus on mastering the senses. So there's a good bit of information in there. Quite a lot about fears.
Yeah, it's put together really nice. I think that's going to help the listeners.
We got it there at the last moment.
Yeah, no, it's man, you're such an amazing master teacher.
Oh, thank you. It's been an honor to be on, Jed.
Thank you so much. Simon's work reminds us that courage isn't noise, it's integrity in action. It's not just about fighting the world, it's about showing up as the man you know you were meant to be. You can learn more about Simon's work in the Courage Project. We'll check those links like he just said, and we'll put the other links that he had in the notes. If this episode moved you, please react, comment, share with somebody who's ready to break their own patterns. And as always, follow the show for more episodes that dig beneath the surface. Till next time, live with courage, lead with the heart. Simon, thank you so much for your most valuable commodity, your time and your wisdom.
Thank you, Jed. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for tuning into the Pulverizing the Patterns podcast, where Jed Brotherson takes you on a journey to confront the roots of your discontent and emerge significant. Remember to visit our website at www.pulverizingthepatterns.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Pulverizing the Patterns podcast.